how far do I need to walk every day? If you're planning your first Camino, that might be a question going through the back of your mind. How far do I have to be able to walk every day? I'm going to put your mind at rest, and we'll talk about that this week. So if you're planning your first Camino, one of the questions you might have in the back of your mind is, how far do I have to walk every day? Well, let me put your mind at rest right at the beginning. It doesn't matter. No one is dictating how far you walk. Let me just share some thoughts with you, which may help you in planning your Camino and working out which one you should walk and where you should start and so on. So first of all, let's get one thing out there. Walking a Camino has got nothing at all to do with the distance. And if you feel pressured at all that you have to walk a certain distance a day, you're not going to enjoy it. So it really is about the journey, and you need to be able to comfortably enjoy that journey, because it's all about the journey. It's not about reaching Santiago necessarily. So how far are you going to walk overall? Typically you would work out what's a comfortable distance that I can walk each day. How much time have I got? Maybe you've got 1 week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and then you can almost kind of work back from Santiago and say, well, I could probably start from there. But allowing some rest days, I think for planning purposes, allow one maybe every 10 days. And also, I throw in another day or two for complications in case you get injured. But of course, it depends which route, whatever part of the world you're from, which route you're going to walk. So let me just show you, because if you're very new to Caminos, a lot of people don't realize how many different Caminos there are. So let me hold up one of Mr. Brearley's wonderful guides, and you can see at the back of the guide there is this map with all of the Camino routes in it. And where are we? Over here is Santiago de Compostela, and we've got routes coming down through France. We've got them coming up from southern Spain, from Portugal, over there, all ending up in, so I'm doing this back to front, in Santiago de Compostela. So many, many different routes to choose from. And there are other videos on the channel to help you with thinking about those different routes. So start off by thinking, well, how long a block of time have I got? And then start thinking about roughly how far you could walk easily, manageably every day. So there's a few things that are going to impact your ability to walk certain distances. And look, if you want me to throw a number out there, from talking to lots of other people and running polls online and reading lots of stuff on forums, I get the sense that the average pilgrim walks about 20 to 25 kilometers per day. Okay, so that's the average. There are going to be some people who, through age and infirmity, are going to walk less. There are, younger, fitter people who really want to have a bit of a challenge, who are going to walk 30 plus every day. There are some people who love to walk 40 kilometers a day. It's all personal choice. Quite honestly, that would be a little bit like a route march for me, but I like to go slower. But if you're wondering, how far do people walk? There's a very, very broad range, and the average is probably somewhere between 20, probably closer to 25 kilometers a day. The good news is that whatever your comfortable distance is, once you start walking, you actually build up a fair bit of stamina and strength, and it does get easier and easier. You will hear everybody give the same tip regarding walking your first Camino, and that is, do not start out too fast, too hard. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And if you try to walk too fast or too far in those early days, you're going to be in danger of hurting yourself. I mean, unless you're, a regular hiker at home and you're walking, 50, 100 miles every week or something. But most pilgrims are not. Walking long distances is generally a new thing for them. Okay, so what's going to impact your ability to walk a certain distance? The particular Camino route that you have picked will have a bearing on that. So a lot of first-time pilgrims walk the Camino Francis or the Camino Português. They're two of the most popular ones. The good news there is that the infrastructure is very good in terms of there being lots of places to stop along the way. So you have lots of accommodation options and eating options. And so there's really quite a high degree of flexibility. I think someone once told me on the Camino Francis that on average, there's something like somewhere to stay every 10 kilometres. I mean, obviously it's not spaced out like that. You'll walk for a distance and there'll be a few. But I think the longest distance without somewhere to stop on Camino Francis is 17 kilometres. Generally, there's probably somewhere less than 10 kilometres away. It might even be as low as 5. So there are lots of options on those Caminos. If you're thinking of one of the more remote ones, that can get a little bit more challenging. So I've only walked the Camino Francis so far. My next one, whenever I get there, I'm hoping will be the Via de la Plata. And everybody has been telling me, but you know, you have to walk longer distances, and there are no water fountains and no places for coffee, so you've got to carry all your food and water with you generally. And the villages are a lot further apart. So, you know, there'll be days we have to walk 30 plus kilometres. So I took that as a challenge, and I spent quite a while watching people's videos. Love your videos, Sarah Duma, of course. Watch all of those on the Via de la Plata and lots of other ones. So really getting a sense of what it was like, going through some great websites like the Gronza site and looking at the sort of distances between villages. I have managed to work out that I can do that walking an average of just over 20 kilometres a day, except for 3 days where I might have to walk 25. So, you know, even on that route, it's possible to walk shorter distances. So think about the particular Camino that you're going to walk and where how good the infrastructure is. Look at some guidebooks. I tend to love John Brearley's guidebooks only because, and I'm not here to promote his books, but I really love the maps on them. They're really great as you're walking. You know, they're just so clear. They show you exactly what you want, you know, where the next village is and what facilities they've got and so on. So think about the particular route. When you're walking at home practicing, you know, you'll get a sense. And, you know, I'm not one for doing lots and lots of training pre-Camino, probably because on my very first Camino I trained too much and injured myself training. But you certainly want to be doing some, you know, core strength exercises, some walking. You'll start to get a little bit of a sense of what's a comfortable distance for you. And then, of course, take into account age and fitness and health. So if you've been watching any of the other videos on this channel, you'll know that my first Camino I walked at age 57, vastly overweight. I'm embarrassed to say, probably about 15 kilos overweight. And that made it very tough for me. So, you know, if you're really quite fit and healthy, you're probably going to be able to manage it a lot better than I did. You know, if you're very overweight, it's going to put a lot of pressure on your body. So take those sorts of things into account. Pack weight has an enormous impact on how far you can walk. It's really all about weight going through your feet and joints, you know, down to the ground. So if your body weight is too high, if your pack weight is too high, if your footwear is not comfortable, you know, all of that is going to probably cause you sort of joint pains and things like that. And that's going to impact your ability to walk certain distances. So I'm kind of rabbiting on it here a bit, but what I wanted to do was really just put your mind at rest. When people sort of say, I'd love to walk a Camino, I'd love to walk this particular Camino, how far do I have to walk every day? It doesn't matter, you can walk as far as you like. You know, there are no rules. Let me just grab Mr. Brearley's guidebook for a moment, because I'll show you, there's a little bit of a trap that people fall into. So this is his guidebook for the Camino Invierno and the Sanabres, but I just want to show you this particular map. Now, guidebooks are produced in such a way that you need to be able to put a logical amount of information on each map in the guidebook. And so what Mr. Brearley has done, very sensibly, is he's put about a walking, you know, a day's walk on each map. So what tends to happen is everybody stays there, they walk to there and stay there. So people, you know, particularly new pilgrims, take these guidebooks to be a bit like the gospel. And, oh, that's, you know, I have to walk that distance today. No, you don't. There's all of these intermediate places. You know, sorry, keeps going out of focus, but there's all these intermediate places that you can stay. And very often, it's quite nice to stay in those intermediate places because they're not as crowded if you're walking at a crowded time of the year. So do your research, have a look at the particular route that you're thinking of walking, have a look at what level of infrastructure there is. You know, if you're going to walk the Camino Frances from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, for example, you don't have to walk Saint-Jean, Roncesvalles, Zubiri, Pamplona. That's purely the way the guidebook is laid out. When I'm walking that route, I actually go Saint-Jean to Orizon, because I don't want to go over the Pyrenees and that whole distance on day one. I then do Roncesvalles. I then don't even go to Zubiri. I usually walk to Bicicleta, which gives me 2 short days. It's because, you know, my joints and so on are not that good. And then generally from Zubiri, I'll go to Pamplona. So I'm probably doing it a day or 2 longer than most people over those first few days anyway. So you walk the distances you want, you walk the distances that are comfortable for you, that make sense, and that allow you to enjoy the Camino. That's my view anyway. If you're under a bit of time pressure, you know, maybe you're going to be, I was going to say push, but maybe you'll be, you know, subconsciously thinking you have to walk longer distances. It's generally not worth it. Just maybe start closer to your endpoint. And of course, most people on their first Camino want to end in Santiago because they want to have the experience of the cathedral, and generally they'll want to have their Compostela, which is the certificate that you get. Just remember that if it's your first Camino and you're only walking a shorter distance, you have to walk at least 100 kilometers on any of those routes. So you've got to start at least 100 kilometers out and make sure you get 2 stamps in your Camino passport, pilgrim passport every day. If you're not worried too much about getting to Santiago, you've got a lot more choice. You can start and finish wherever you like. So there we go. A bit of a roundabout way of saying don't stress over how far you're going to walk each day. And the other, probably the final note I would make is that you might be planning your Camino and think, this is great, we're going to start here and we're going to finish there and we're going to walk for whatever it is, 19 days. Don't expect that plan to hold up for 19 days. Because inevitably it doesn't. You will want to change that plan. I guess that's what I'm saying. So don't sort of lock in too much of it, because you might be 2 or 3 days into it and you're going, oh, actually we're finding this a lot easier than we thought. We actually want to walk further. Or you might be finding, oh, this is harder than I thought. I want to walk shorter distances. Or you're going to meet some people that you really get on great with and you kind of want to stay in the same place as they do. So all these things happen on Camino, which kind of screw your plans up. And of course, you can get injured as well. So plan roughly, just to give yourself a bit of an idea of how long should we allow for ourselves to walk this particular Camino. And don't stress over how far you're walking every day. Okay, thanks for watching. Love to get your comments down below. If you're freaking out about distances or anything like that, do ask questions down below. I know there's lots of people on the channel here who have far more experience than I at walking Caminos as well, so some of them will probably jump in with some feedback as well and some great advice. So thanks for watching. See you next week.